time, weather, and
Universal design,
Assistive technology,
Accessible
WCAG,
environment, screen reader,
audio
infrastructure,
descriptions,
physical accessibility,
universal design,
assistive technology,
accessible
WCAG,
environment, screen reader,
audio
infrastructure, physical accessibility,
universal design,
assistive technology.
accessible environment, screen reader.
Help the Blind Foundation presents Yours Accessibly, a limited series podcast bringing accessibility conversations to your drawing room, raw, real, and relatable. Thanks for tuning in.
Hello. I'm your host Shankar and welcome to the first episode of Yours Accessibly. It's been slightly a cooler day here in Hyderabad and hence you hear a lot of chirp in my voice. Anyways, in this episode of Yours Accessibly, I've got you two of the most interesting startup founders who also happen to be visually impaired that are available in my contact book. We have got Aishwarya TV, who's the co-founder and CMO of Grailmaker Innovations, leading their product Spacefelt from the front. And we have Sunil Choudhary, who's the founder of TAN, the Accessible Nation app. Both of these assistive tech are aiming at making independent living more possible, more accessible for people with vision impairments and with other disabilities as well. Spacefelt is basically a QR label. The first time when you scan it, you get to record something to it, and then next time whenever you scan it, you get to hear whatever you recorded. So basically you can stick Spacefelt onto your documents, onto the kitchen groceries, and even stitch it to your clothing so that you can record vital information like the colors and the patterns, for example, when it comes to clothing. So whenever you scan it the next time, you get to hear the colors and the other information that you've recorded. They also have a public version which basically makes buildings, public spaces such as hospitals, malls, universities accessible. So whenever a visually impaired goes and scans their QR, they get the information about what room it is, if they want to go to a certain place like a washroom. Not just that, people who are hard of hearing and even sighted can scan these QRs and get related information. On the other hand, we have TAN, the Accessible Nation, which is basically providing accessible versions of the regular apps such as Amazon, Swiggy, because the regular apps such as Amazon and Swiggy are not so accessible. They also have a platform where people get to publish curated accessible travel and much more. So I got these two people to talk about what does it really take to build an assistive tech in 2026, the business models, the goods, the not so goods, the bads, and everything in between. You get to hear a lot of insights and stories that we generally don't hear in these flashy inspirational narratives. With that long intro out of our way, thanks for suffering through that. Welcome my audience and Sunil, Aishwarya to Yours Accessibly.
Thanks, Suma. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. Looking forward to this conversation and I'm happy to be here.
Thanks a lot, Uman, for inviting me as well here. It's lovely to be here.
Welcome, guys. Pleasure is mine. So to start with, I would like you to begin, Sunil. Probably, yes, I have given whatever intro that I from a user point of view, but could you also give a little more intro about you and what you're building with TAN, and then we can go on to Aishwarya.
Sure. So I'll start with my intro and then we'll move to TAN.
Yes.
So my name is Sunil Choudhary. I am from Jaipur, Rajasthan, and I am myself a totally blind person. And from my professional background, I am more an engineer. I have completed my BTech in computer science from IIT Jodhpur back in 2018. And since then, I've been working in different tech companies and I've also been part of a few other startups. So that's a little bit about me. Now, talking about what we are doing at TAN. So TAN is, as you already said, that's short for the Accessible Nation. And what we are building here is more of a independent living tool in your digital world. So in digital world, if you want to do any transaction, you as a person with disability should never face any barrier while doing any transaction. It could be shopping something online, it could be booking your tickets, it could be browsing for information and so on. I mean, that's overall broad goal that we have currently. In terms of what we have already live, it's you can order food from 10 app right now if you want to have a cooked prepared food. Also, you can order from Amazon. So if you are looking for anything related to retail, grocery, and those things, so you can order from Amazon through 10. And then you have things like you can also book flights as well through 10, and you can also search for any inclusive trips that are right now out there in community, and you as a person with disability want to be part of that experience of going on trips, experience nature and so on. So that's what we are doing as a platform. In terms of what is special about us is the accessibility layer. So whatever platform are out there, we are building an accessibility layer over them. So you as a user are only always in touch with 10, which is a completely accessible platform. Therefore, the idea is that you never face any accessibility issues.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Sunil. Over to you, Aishwarya.
Thanks again, Uma. Um, Grailmaker Innovations is from Hyderabad, and we got into public accessibility in 2023. It was my own life's personal experiences, visually impaired, and I had worked as a rehab counselor for 10 years. And we have seen challenges like there is one guy who traveled all the way 500 kilometers odd from one place to Hyderabad, I mean Pune to Hyderabad, but he could not get out of platform number 1 to the exit, because of inaccessibility. And my own life experience, as I said, when I was doing my psychology, I was in the lab and my professor happened to describe an equipment. And she was using the words like, okay, this, you have to put this here and see, this is moving down. And I had no clue what she was talking about. So basically, I just requested her, ma'am, I didn't ask her anything additional. I just told her, ma'am, as you are explaining it, I want to touch the equipment because then I would know what is this, that, and all that. And then she makes an open comment saying, why do they even allow visually impaired to take up psychology? Then another experience. So Spaceful, we started off by then in 2022 or something. We had started off with a personal labeling. Basically, Spaceful has two versions. One is the personal version and the other is the public version. So personal version is where the visually impaired is given this adhesive stickers as well as textile tags. Like you said, to label your household items, clothing and all.
Right.
And people started using it and we were in the process of taking feedback. We never thought one day Spaceful would get into public spaces. And then one day I went to a mall with my cousin's sister and she helped me to the washroom. She said, okay, listen, this is unigender washroom. So I was like, okay, okay. So I went inside and I wanted to I have light perception, by the way. I can't see exactly what is in front of me, but a little bit of light perception and anything in white shines out. Oh, there is something in white. So in front of me at my waist level, there was something in white that was shining out. And I had my hands in it and just to realize it was gents urinals. So I was like, geez, this can happen to any person, man. I mean, come on, and then I came back, then my CEO, Vivian and I, we started discussing how about bringing Spacewell to public spaces. Then we had two things in mind. How about the other solutions that are already existing? So Braille came to our mind. And when we did a study and all that, we realized that only we searched for different researches and we realized that only 1% of visually impaired can read Braille in India. At the same time, only 10% can read it in the world. I mean, everybody, even when I was sighted, I used to think visually impaired equals Braille, Braille equals visually impaired when it comes to the medium of learning. But that hit us, and then we started, okay, by then AI and all have already come in, and how about AI? But then AI is great. I mean, for a lot of things, I use AI, but AI cannot customize information. Like example, I may have to ask AI 4 5 times the same question, like, okay, what is this? What is that? Things like that. So, with these things in mind, we brought in Spacewell to public version. So we do the mapping from the back end. We create the content, and the content is developed to audio description. And another journey, what happened is during this process, we realized that even deaf and hard of hearing have issues with, especially there's a communication gap in the public spaces.
Right.
Can you imagine, like deaf and hard of hearing, they come to a building and they're looking for washroom. Who do they ask? I mean, people do not know sign language. So we thought of incorporating even sign language into Spacewell. So right now, when you use Spacewell tab, for visually impaired, we recommend that they use that because one is it gives them the place orientation before going there. Like example, okay, take the main entrance. There are 3 entrances, but take the main entrance, and once you enter the main entrance, towards the left is the elevator, and third floor is this restaurant. So you give them mental orientation. And second is also one question that has been asked to me every time is how do they know where the QR codes are? So we give them a list of QR codes. Example, above every door knob, there's a door, and above every door knob, there's a QR code. Reception table on the right side, book counter on the right side. So we are trying to standardize the locations, and we give them the list of locations. So once visually impaired go through this, they directly go and scan, use the Spacewell tab. When they scan it, they immediately get audio description. Unlike the regular QR apps, when you scan this regular, use the regular QR, you get a URL, then you go on to the page, you go to the heading, then you play the media button, player button. So instead of that, we made it easy for them to use Spacewell. But when it comes to deaf and hard of hearing and people with no disabilities, yes, Spacewell works for people with no disabilities as well because it provides textual information, images, layout, brochures, catalog. So they can use the regular QR scanning apps. So yeah, it's an inclusive app and it works offline as well. And yeah, that's about Spacewell, Duma.
Thank you, Aishwarya. So I think what listening to the origin story of Spacefelt, it is very clear that many of the accessibility solutions that we see, they come from a place of frustration, of not of the inaccessibility or the general inaccessibility of the world. So Sunil, I'm sure for TAN it must have been the kind of inaccessible nature of many of the platforms that we currently have. See, I, for example, can never imagine booking a movie ticket or a flight ticket on my own because the whole aspect of selecting my seat is not at all accessible on any of the popular platforms. So how was the journey for you? I mean, what led you towards TAN and to convince people that, because a lot of siters will say, Amazon hai na, Flipkart hai na, why do we need another app with the same platform? So how was it for you to convince people to bring this onto the table?
Sure. So, for me, the drive is, of course, me being totally blind person, that is, so I face these inaccessibility challenges, every day on different platforms.
Right.
And another thing is, even right now, there's still a push, in terms of how things should be made accessible. Then there are, organizations who kind of making others, accountable by filing cases and everything.
Right.
All of that is happening, but at the end of the day, what the fact remains that, this is very important part of, whatever you are building, the accessibility. And it has to be done very, carefully, because if you don't consider accessibility as one of your, product criteria, release criteria, then you always have issue. So let's say if you make your app once accessible because of XYZ, whatever be the push for it. But down the line, when your developers are releasing new things, then again those accessibility are is going to break. And that is a story you hear almost every day on all of the groups, or the WhatsApp community group that we have in visually impaired community. There is one or another app, which is breaking the accessibility, and that is because it's not part of their main product life cycle.
Correct.
Yeah. If they make it, then to be honest, what we are building is not a rocket science. It's something that everyone should do. But for us, focus is that one additional criteria should be there for any product release, and then you as a person with disability have got a new level of independence. Now, as to why all of these platforms are already there, why we are building new one, so there is a little bit technicality there, in the sense that we, for example, don't have our own store or logistic,
Correct.
or product warehouses and those things. So these platforms already have, Amazon, Flipkart, Blinkit, Zepto, whatever you talk about, all of them already have that, and that is something very capital intensive work as well. So we as a company are never focused toward that we want to build this platform end to end. Our idea is that there is already a system in place. It's not it's broken at places, and we could fill in the gaps wherever there is a gap. So our idea is that we are just providing a digital layer over whatever is available already there. So from that sense, if you are exploring 10, you are not actually exploring a new marketplace. It's more like aggregation of marketplaces. So different marketplaces which are already there out, we are bringing all of them into a single app, and through the single app, which has a guarantee for you that it will never break the accessibility.
Right. So how hard or easy was it for you to convince, say, your investors or your developers or whoever that's coming from a sighted point of view, coming on to into the ecosystem of TAN? How was it for you to convince those people what we are doing is very important, and it's not a duplication of work, but we are adding another additional layer of accessibility onto these platforms. So was it challenging or was it easy for you?
I mean, it's a mixed reaction. So the thing is, with accessibility, it's not very easy to comprehend, because, for example, you as a visually impaired or blind person, if you're accessing a website or a app, so that experience is totally different from how a sighted person
Correct. Yeah.
Because they are using their eyes, you are using your ears, as a blind person. So it's really hard to make them understand how this works. So I think the challenging part is that only. So if they are able to understand this is what how it works, and these are the challenges, although the system is there, and this needs these prerequisites, web accessibility or whatever. If that system is in place, only then this works. So for us, again, how I do it personally is I take particular app and show that for example, this is an app. Now I as a visually impaired person going to this particular app, and these are the issues I'm facing, and then now
basically live demonstrate the challenges that we might be facing.
And that way it becomes easy. But there is always a thing that whatever you're building is at the end of the day technology only.
Correct.
So let's say, what if the other build it and so on. So my consistent and simple answer there is if they make accessibility as their one of criteria, I mean a release blocking criteria, where they say that will not release something because it's not accessible, then perhaps there is no need of that. But again this is something that no one considers that. Even whatever the big companies can think of, even Google, Microsoft, even they sometimes have that thing. They are better in terms of fixing it. As soon as it is there, they quickly fix it. That is there, but those kind of challenges are there even for these big giants. So that's why how I approach this, and so far have been successful. And this is an ongoing journey. We are still talking to more people. They are more or less same challenges, but we have been able to convince, and people are showing trust in us in terms of giving us funding and so.
Hmm. So, uh, thank you, Sunil. Aishwarya, before we talk about something different altogether, I would like your perspective on this, because you, with your public version of Spacefelt, you will need places to understand the importance of accessibility, for them to realize their space perhaps is not the most accessible one. So how do you tackle this? How do you convince people that, dude, your place is not at all accessible and there's something that we can do for it?
Interesting question, Uma. So basically, what happens for us to convince people is the awareness that there are other, solutions besides braille.
Hmm.
So what happens is, because there is this Accessible India campaign and the RPWT Act that was laid out, it
Hmm.
of course says braille signages, and it mentions about audio feedback.
Correct.
But currently we do not have, like a lot of audio feedback solutions. So people prefer, okay, if I install braille, that's the checkbox, I've marked the checkbox.
Correct. Hmm.
So that is where we have to start. So these are people who have already done it. Like, okay, now we have to tell them, no, braille is not the only language. There are other modes. So it takes a lot of time to actually speak to them. Some people who actually, and it again depends on the individual, Uma.
Hmm.
Like example, we've had cycles for almost 8-9 months, and we still didn't hear back from them.
Hmm.
But we've had talks like just 15 days, and they're like, no, come and install this. So
Hmm.
it also depends on the people's awareness, sensitization. So for people who do not know anything about, they don't even know that braille and all exists, they kind of get excited. They're like, okay, I want to know more. And again, there are
Hmm.
two different types. Some are like, yeah, we want to do this. Some initially, when Spacebelt was only providing for visually impaired,
Hmm.
it was more like, how many visually impaired are there? Who will actually use it? There's no point in using this. But then once we've added features for deaf and hard of hearing, and mostly, especially for people in general, the sighted persons, the people with no disabilities, so they're like, oh, this also provides for, especially when we do events like making museums or art galleries
Hmm.
accessible.
Hmm.
They're like, oh, this is good. The audio description and sign language can be secondary, but this is providing for general visitors. And I've even had, interestingly, Uma, I even had people who reached out, like, educational institutions who reached out to us just because they have inspection by NAG, and they wanted to make sure that, okay, the campus is accessible. And they were like, okay, you have 1 week, make our institution accessible. I said, this is not done. I mean, this is not how it works. Once the inspection is done, then what? It's not serving the purpose. We are not making institutions accessible for some inspection, but we are making it accessible so that people will benefit it, people will make use of it. So it's an ongoing journey, but from the time we have started till now, we see that change, Uma. And that change came because when we started doing the events, people started, initially they didn't know about what it was.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
slowly the awareness is spreading, and we see that, like, oh, people are, especially in Purple Fest, where we have worked, we've made the stalls accessible. So every stall has a QR at the corner of the table. We see some of the visually impaired, they use it, and then, ma'am, I know I've used your QR in Purple
Hmm.
Fest. So it feels very happy that people are making use of it in this way. And in fact, I'm glad to say that we've even worked with Help the Blind Foundation for the research center in the Miller's library in Madras Christian College, and
Correct.
we still get great feedback from there
Hmm.
on the premises and all that. So Again, I say it all depends on each individual how they want to take it.
Right. So yeah, it definitely depends on how warmed up the the client or the person to the conversations of accessibility. No, but the interesting takeaway is how you have made it more inclusive. You have thrown the net wider so that there's more audience, there's more user base for this. For me, that's a very interesting takeaway. It's getting a bit comfortable for both of you, so I want to make it somewhat uncomfortable. So, uh, let's talk about some numbers, right? So I was thinking when I was brainstorming for this podcast episode, the conversations like this around accessibility, inclusion, building something for people with disabilities, is it still stuck in the whole CSR zone, or are we slowly entering into the zone of business? Yes, this is a viable startup financially, and we can make profits from the actual user. So how at what stage are we right now in 2026?
Yeah, okay, I can talk about what I think.
Mhm.
So I mean, so the way that I think this is, in terms of how our community is organized, as in community of the person with disabilities.
Mhm.
So they that is still challenging in what we have been facing so far. So reach out is something which is kind of hard, in the community. Although we have WhatsApp, emailing list, and so on, so on. But there is a limit to how many people are there in that circle. So,
Mm.
for example, talk about us. In our calculation, what we think the business model we have right now. So, this is something that we think would be, at a level of viability when we have somewhere between 50,000 to 1 lakh users,
Mm.
on our platform.
Mm.
Now, currently, we have 4,000 or so users. So
Right.
there is still a long journey ahead for us.
Correct. Mm.
In terms of if you're reaching out to this close space of WhatsApp group, emailing list, so you kind of meeting those 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, maybe mostly 10,000 people.
Mm.
That's how, at least that's what my experience has been. So this is something we have only been reaching out from last year only. So we started reaching out back in July, August. So that's where our starting point is. But
Mm.
that's how my experience have been. That is a number we think would be achievable. It's not that it not be. We may have to again, I think there was a talk about broadening the net. So that
Mm.
is what we are also doing in terms of building something that could be beneficial for more disabilities and even for person without disability. So, for example, if you have a platform where you can compare prices from X number of platforms, so anyone would like to use it. There is an AI which is basically ordering it for you. You don't have to go through the hustle bustle of going to different website, comparing prices, and so on, so on. So that's how we see this product evolving. But reach out is something that personally I face is difficult. I'm still learning, seeing how I can partner with people and then do and so on. That is a journey that we are right now going through, and maybe 1 year down the line, if we again discuss this question, I think I would.
The answer might change entirely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there like a research that you've done in terms of how many smartphone users in India are with like visually impaired smartphone users in India? Any ballpark figure that you have in your mind?
So we have some estimation that we can talk about.
Mhm.
There's no as such number that is
Yeah, of course.
created.
Because
So
it's very difficult to gauge also. Yeah.
yeah, gauge also. And again, so I mean, there's a lot of hope from this census that is about to come, and
27.
I really hope that government do this thing right this time. But going by the estimation, so you have almost 2 crore or so people that I would say with a visual impairment that would in the need of something like special apps from disability perspective. And in India, I'm not talking about India only.
Right.
And the general figure around smartphone is, around 50% or so, where you have, people who have smartphones.
Sorry, so this is you're saying in India or
In India.
India? Oh,
In
that's
India.
actually very fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if you also talk about, from that employment perspective, because what we are building is more about, purchasing power, capacity, and those things. So that you can again, whatever number I have is, from the government. So that comes out to be, in general, for the disability, comes out to be somewhere, 30 to 40%. And so that, then if you take that numbers, so it comes down to be in few lakhs. So somewhere, 30, 40 lakhs, I would say.
Okay,
Only
so
for,
this 30, 40 lakhs are with the actual purchasing power they to spend money on anything.
yeah. With the smartphone and everything. And this is for the visually impaired ability. This will of course include low vision as well. It's not only blind people. It
Correct,
includes low
correct.
vision as
The
well.
whole visually impaired spectrum. Yeah. Right. Aishwarya, do you have? I would like to hear from you.
So you see, when you are an early startup, your question was about like the CSR versus the business strategy. So
Correct.
yes, when you're an early startup, you're not known to the community.
Mhm.
The product, the product maybe they would have been there in another form, but yours may be like example now the Accessible Nation. It's the first of its kind. You've not heard of it. Even Spacewell.
Correct.
It is a first of its kind. You've not heard of one solution providing to, all the three categories. So
Mhm.
people are kind of like, oh, what is this? Is this really good? So during that process, you do need support of CSR's grants. There are a lot of accelerator programs like NCPDP, many Athwaran. So they've supported us initially, with
Mhm.
grant. We also applied for international grants like Bayer. And then that kind of gives you, because we have to run the operations, right? We have to have our people, tech, and the product development, all in place. So to start it off, we do need this initial grants. But during this process, two things that happen simultaneously. One is your product is going into the market and people are exploring it.
Mhm.
Then if they find it like, oh, this is actually good, it
Mhm.
is not what they're simply proclaiming it to be, this is making sense.
Mhm.
And so that confidence people will start having on you, first thing. And second is, kind of becomes like one person tells the other, hey, did you try this? You should try this. Because this happened with us when we had art gallery. Even you attended it, I remember, at State Gallery of.
Right. Yeah.
So there were people from HC. On the first day they came and they actually told their friends, and they brought in their friends on the next day, so
Mhm.
that people will start having confidence on you. And secondly, once this you kind of get stabilized and all that, uh, and your product is showing what it is. It is, I won't say making a change, but it is being useful to people. So that is when people start reaching out to you. So initially, I joined Grailmaker Innovations in 2023, October or something. So initially, I remember I had to reach out to people, write to people, so many follow-ups, leads, and all that. Today, uh, I won't say everyone, but I do still do reach out. There are a section of people who actually heard of this app somewhere and they reach out and, hey, I heard of this. I
Mhm.
saw your post on here. So can we have a talk on this? So that slowly, it's a slow change that happens during the process. And you have to build your, in all this time, you have to build your product in a way where it is scalable also. Like example, Spaceful, right now we do in-person mapping. Like we go, our team goes, and so,
Correct.
but what we have done is to reach out to people across, not just in India but across the world. We have built in an online portal where businesses can themselves create the content and install Spacewell based on the instructions, the guidelines that we've already done. So this is how a company will scale up and start and scale up.
So I had a question for you particularly, Aishwarya, because your product is, I mean, visually impaired will have to directly purchase, let's say, the personal version of Spacewell tags or whatever, right? And for ages, as a community, we sort of struggled with the whole thing of freebies.
Hmm.
I remember I was a part of this app called ID, EYID,
Yeah, yeah.
which was, I think, one of the pioneers of the whole object detection and OCR and all of
Hmm.
that. And that product is dead right now because they, for a very long time, struggled. They thought we'll give a very reasonable price and visually impaired will buy, and that's going to be our business model. And somehow it didn't work because people expected ID to be free entirely, right? So, how do you tackle with that thing, or has it changed in 2026?
It is still a problem, Uma, to be honest. The affordability was one of our key points when we were thinking of how to get the product into market. Like I said, I worked as a rehab counselor, and I've seen so many CSR distribution programs. People don't go to buy, like, 2,000 se zyada ho gaya tha. Nah, I don't want to buy it. But then, unfortunately, also, Uma, there were products that were costing like 35,000, 40,000, and it was distributed. But people didn't not use it. I mean, it was given to them, they didn't understand the importance of it. And they had kept it at home. So we were like, no, we cannot do that, give free products based on, just distribution programs. But we need to also have some sort of, capital to this, like, see, like, you do a recharge, your mobile recharge costs more than buying a Spacewell booklet, actually, because I believe now mobile recharge is some 899 for 3 months or something like that. But this is just 525 rupees, and it is helping you in your daily day-to-day tasks. Like, again, Uma, people who are really in need of it, oh, I don't want to be dependent on people to label my documents. I don't want to be depend on people for clothing, identify my clothes or kitchen items. So those people are reaching out to us, and they are actually purchasing it. But unfortunately, the ratio is very less. The others are like, no, I'm okay, being the way it is. So that is the scenario. So that is a B2C model, Uma, where we are still, it's still a struggle. But B2B, the public accessibility is actually much better than compared to B2C.
Right. Okay, so I don't think we can avoid this question anymore. So let's talk about AI. Um, how was, I mean, from founder standpoint, you from your own product standpoint, and in general assistive tech standpoint, what do you think? Is it just a keyword right now? Is AI just a keyword in 2026, or do you think there's something beyond the descriptions, image descriptions, or things like that? Is it going to be a remarkable thing in, say, next 5 years or something like that?
AI is no longer a buzzword, no. So it is just something that is making real impact, and I think it's going to have more and more impact as we go along, down the line. So I am particularly very much excited about AI, and and you already see, those AI being applied in our product already. So, for example, you have a voice agent live in our app, or even on WhatsApp, where you can call and then order something. So it's like you're talking to an AI, you're telling, this is what I'm looking for. It's finding those products, telling you description. Email description is, of course, one of its feature, but you in general, as a visually impaired people, how you have been doing shopping, for a long time, where you have basically asking someone to look for something, they are telling you something, then you're again asking further question and so on. So all of those conversation is something that we you can do on right now on 10 as well. So that is one angle where we AI is impacting our product. And of course the coding is another part. So our idea in 10 is to make an interface or an app that is personalized for you as per your accessibility needs. So it has become very easy for us to do that personalization based on user needs, given we have AI coding agents and so on live with us. So that journey has, so for example, whatever we built in the initial 1 year is something that perhaps we can build now in within 2 months. So that kind of acceleration you have got through AI, because I'm only building more of a digital product based on coding and everything. So we particularly see a very big advantage in whatever AI we have so far.
Right. Aishwarya?
In space, well, we are planning to incorporate AI. We have already done in few areas, so we are planning to incorporate AI. Like example, let's say an event like Purple Fest where there are 100 stalls. Okay, and I, as a user, I go visit the stalls, and I remember there were 10 stalls that were related to visual impairment. Now, how do I go back and get the information? Okay, when I'm there, I scan the information, but how do I go back and retrieve that information? So that we are planning to do it through AI. Even the different language interfaces, the different audio languages that are going to be there. We are planning to do it through AI. Coming to the general assistive tech, it has been superb. I don't know, I just want AI to get better and better. It's really like example, as a founder, if I mean, both Sunil and I understand that it's difficult. The hiring process is difficult. So you get like 25 to 30 resumes, and then you have to figure out, you have to go through each of it. Sometimes the resumes are not accessible. So now what we do, we just put all the resumes in AI and ask it to create an Excel sheet with all the necessary headings. In writing your proposals, your project proposals, or your grants, put the previous ones together, and it all does. And at the same time, even content creation, everything, AI is being, it has optimized the work process. Initially, for one proposal, I remember, my English is not that good, so I remember, I sit through it like 1-2 days and read whether it is good, and so many edits. Now I just tell AI in a way that it doesn't sound like a typical AI, but it sounds like me. It's just AI is helping me to write it rather than it's sounding like AI. So I really want, and then even for a founder, when you travel alone, uh, AI is very, in fact, thanks to you, Uma, who told me actually about Gemini Live, and I've been using that for so many
At this
things.
point, Gemini Live should give me some kind of incentive for promoting so much.
Definitely, because the way it helps me, like when I'm going out, if it's a new place, I just open Gemini Live and ask to describe, and it's been superb. So I think everyone should use AI. Yeah, that is what I can say.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for more than the cited, for cited, it might be a keyword, it might be a cool thing, it might be a cool technical revolution, but
Mhm.
for us, it's fundamentally it's
Yeah,
changed a lot
yeah.
of.
Even image designing for that matter, Uma. Like
Hmm.
so,
Oh yeah,
okay,
I see your posts.
yeah.
Uh,
So I am like I did my, like you, I also did my mass communication, and one of the things back then when I was cited was to design these posters. That time we were using the CS2 Photoshop and all that, and now things have changed. Canva has come in, and so many other, designing tools. So I just tried out like, okay, let me see. This is the concept. Let me see. Let me try making a poster using Nano Banana. It takes time. I mean, because you're learning it all by yourself, it takes time. But at the end of it, when you create the poster and it actually is good, you're like, oh, nice. The happiness is quite different, Uma.
It is. It is. I always
Yeah.
have a lot of twisted thoughts in my mind for cover pictures, and it was very difficult previously to explain. First of all, to go through the shame of explaining your twisted thought to your designer. But now it's very easy. AI is non-judgmental, at least as of now. I don't know, 10 years down, it might be that day you said this to me, so I think you're not a good person. So yeah, it's very liberating. That's what I can say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So I would like to. I have so many questions, but I think if I start asking all of them, it will go on forever now. So I would like to slowly bring the conversation to an end. But I have two questions for both of you. One is I see a lot of non-disabled coming up with solutions for people with disabilities, especially sighted, thinking this is what will help visually impaired and create. So I had a conversation with one young chap, uh, and he created uh, a helmet that gives the audio feedback or whatever that visually impaired can wear while walking. A helmet with two earplugs, that are constantly in your ears, so that takes away the whatever hearing power that you have, is also taken away. So I wanted to know from you guys, I wanted to get your thoughts on how important it is to, while being assistive technology, how important it is to have people who understand who understand the kind of challenge, who understand what accessibility really means, what inclusion really means. How was your, I'm sure you must have worked with some sighted coders, people who sighted interns and all of that. I know, Aishwarya, you or most of your interns are sighted people. So, what were your experiences like?
So, Uma, I've had this journey with, people who are non-disabled founders. And I remember this somewhere back in 2006, no, 2021, 20, because it was right when COVID was on. And one of these founders came to us and he said, okay, you mentioned helmet, So same way he has made a headwear and it has got a siren, similar to the one like how the ambulance has. And he
Wow.
said that visually impaired can wear that and walk on the road, not being scared, like they don't need to be scared of
Hey, I
people.
want to wear it. Dude. Can you kindly give me the number of this founder? I want to wear this iron on my head.
Yeah, Uma, right. So he was like, "This is for social distancing," and so it starts when you're closer. It detects people around. It starts, giving sirens. And I was like, "How?" I mean, I had no words. And then I told him, "Would you wear this if you were visually impaired?" And that's it. He understood why I was off with it. So, in general, this is for all people who are designing. One is they have to understand, they have to be in the shoes of visually impaired. Don't get overwhelmed by one situation that you come across, okay? Because that one situation may be different to others, and that
Mm,
one situation need not decide what product you want to make. So
mm,
I really want people to be around visually impaired. That's why I appreciate my friends Pratusha and Vivian, because they are there, initially when Vivian, especially, when he started developing Spacewell, he used to
mm,
pester me, sit with me like for 2 hours, 3 hours. How do you use talkback? Why is this gesture? What is this app? And that's how we created Spacewell, which is accessible.
mm,
So you have to be around visually impaired. That's when you get to understand the different challenges of their life. Second, is when you are developing the product, have a visually impaired along with you in your development team, because they will give you insights you may not have thought of. Third is when you're testing it, when the product is finally out,
Hmm.
don't test it with, to be honest, Uma, there are, people who are basic users of technologies, show them a simple app, they'll be like, wow. But the same app, if showed to an advanced user, is like, there are better apps than this. So your category of users, a user type, should be different. They should be basic, moderate, and advanced. So when
Hmm.
you have a positive response from all the three, be rest assured that your product will be loved by everyone.
My last question for this episode for both of you is, we are in 2026. Definitely things do look very promising from say 2015 or 2016. So what is your, as people who are in the ecosystem, uh, who are change makers in the ecosystem, what are your hopes for next 5 years, say 2030? What are your hopes and wishes? You can be absolutely wishful. You can say, I would like to make moon accessible or something like that. I don't mind.
So for me, particularly, the area that I'm focusing is more on, how do you make your, day-to-day living more independent? So, again, I was talking to Aishwarya as well, the other day. Is there something that we could do, in collaboration and see how that digital as well as physical, accessibility could combine somehow? And we have, this one solution that is basically, taking care. So over the time, I think that, in the coming 5 years, we should be at a level where disability, I mean, the inaccessibility is something that should not, exist. I am at that level of, wishful thinking that within 5 years, it should become, or it would become, no, I would not say should, at least in my mind, I think it would become a place where, you have a lot of solutions out there. They are solving your real problem. And because, disability at the end of the day either is due to some sense restriction or some, action or agent restriction. I mean, for example, it could be your arms or anything. So something on those places. So I think in the coming time, both things would evolve as in society and infrastructure. That would get much better. Also, in terms of the personal medical assistance and things, so Neuralink and all other those things coming up. So I am personally very much excited about 5 year down the line how everything is going to be accessible.
Over to you, Aishwarya. This
Oh,
is good,
sorry,
dude.
I,
Every
I
time.
was talking.
you-
I was talking with my mic muted. Sorry.
I was saying this is good. Every time she doesn't like one question, she's dropping off and saying my internet is not working.
No, 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 no. I was just saying you asked this question to a greedy person, Uma. So be
The
ready for
question is
the.
asked by a greedy person, so greed is palpable in this room now.
So see, one important thing is I know the world is what it is today. Okay, but if you really want to see a change happening, that is integrate accessibility, inclusion, disability as a part of education syllabus right from school, because
Hmm.
those students will be tomorrow's, pata nahi, they could be something, and they are aware. We wouldn't be, as a founders, we wouldn't be having difficulty to convince somebody, "Arey bhai, I can actually use computers." But if
Hmm.
not, this knowledge is given to those students at the right age, tomorrow they wouldn't be asking questions in a way that it puts us down. Example, I did address in an architecture school recently. So when I told them, like, the what will happen if you don't think of accessibility as designers and architects, they were shocked. They, at the end of the session, they came to me and said, we never thought that accessibility is so important. We want to reframe, redo our project.
Hmm.
And even at a law college, law university, I got to know recently, Uma, they don't have anything related to disability rights at all. So
Yeah.
this is the education system right now where you have to integrate these things. Second, I'm looking forward to The policies, of course, we have great policies in place, but the implementation is what is not taking place. Today, I'm called a disabled person, and I'm not ashamed of being called a disabled person. But when you think of it, I have a mobile app in my phone, I have a cane in my hand, and I've learned everything. But are the roads accessible for me? Can I walk on the footpath all by myself? That's the question to ask. Are the roads inaccessible, or am I disabled? These are the questions to ponder upon. So the policies should be implemented, should be brought into place, and as much as awareness, because when there is awareness, Noma, you don't need to take any session, stand on the stage and shout out loud with your posts or anything about inaccessibility, what has happened to you as a disabled person. Automatically it becomes a part of human nature to think of this. So that is what I see. I mean, 5 years is too short for this, but I'm still hopeful, because in 2013-14 we never thought of using Swiggy or Urban Club to do our things. Now things have become easier, and now AI has come in and things have become more easy for that. So I'm a positive person, and I hope to see a better future.
Thank you. I had a lot of bad jokes, but I don't want to crack any of them because it's such a powerful thing to end our episode on. Thank you so much, both of you, for giving. This is the time for me to be a bit formal. So thanks, both of you, for giving your time. It's been lovely talking to you. I think this as a conversation is not generally we hear anywhere. So I really appreciate you being very candid, open, and sharing your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys. Please kindly don't block me after this conversation. Let's be friends. Let's continue to be friends. Thanks for coming, both.
Thanks, Uma. Thanks for having us. It's been wonderful, and you've been a great host, although a little annoying.
Yeah, thank you. I would take it as a compliment. Little annoying is like a compliment.
The caravan moves on. Stay tuned for another episode of Yours Accessibly next week. Don't forget to follow Help the Blind Foundation on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Until the next one.